Welcome to the Las Vegas Advisor interview series. Today, we are joined by Hollywood Dave Stann, who's been on the show once before. It's great to have you back, Hollywood Dave.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll do a little intro here.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it over to Anthony, give you a little background on Hollywood Dave.
All right, Dave Stann, formerly Hollywood Dave. We'll get into that. We'll talk about it. Calls himself, told me, full-time now, no longer Hollywood Dave, full-time digital nomad and sovereign individual.
I try.
I don't know what that means.
I'm going to red pill everybody. Watch out.
Blackjack and poker expert, essentially. Top tournament player in both games. Author of the book Hollywood Blackjack, which I'll get to in a minute. Developer of social gambling platforms. Crypto expert. That's what he's into now. So we'll talk some Bitcoin. We first met at the World Series of Blackjack on the Game Show Network. 2004.
Mohegan Sun, Connecticut.
Yep. And
it's like a hunting lodge for rich weirdos.
I'll explain a little bit about that, but first I'll just attempt to read. Max Rubin wrote the foreword.
Okay.
And he references what we just talked about. He says, the first time I saw Hollywood Dave, there we go again. The first time I saw Hollywood Dave Stann was at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, where we're getting ready for the tournament. While 5 other world-class blackjack players were quietly contemplating and planning their strategies, here was this punk, sporting clothes that Kiss threw away for being too weird, running his hands, which happened to be in leather gloves with the fingers cut off, through his 3-tone hair, and yapping like a poodle bitch in heat at the dog pound. I caught his act for a second or two and thought immediately, okay, they've got him here for comedy relief.
Thanks, Max.
Then he goes on to talk about, that he disrupted everybody so thoroughly that you went on to take second in the tournament. Was the favorite to win it on the last hand. Lost to Micah Ponte, another, fine blackjack player. But and it was, and it was all basically an act. And I was watching him going, who is this guy? When I first saw him, I hated him. I was like, I can't stand this guy, and I'm like, this guy, who is he? I'm asking a bunch of people. They're like, I don't know. There's just somebody they brought in. And this was the Hollywood Dave persona that we're going to talk about. And it was part of his act, first of all, to get on the show, and second, to literally disrupt people, correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's face it, watching people play blackjack is like watching paint dry. Poker, it's more of a psychological game, but blackjack, not as much. And so I definitely, studied every book I can get my hands on. I knew the math and the numbers backwards, forwards, was quizzing myself infinitely just so I wouldn't even have to think. But I knew I needed something else. Let's face it, I'm playing against the world's best players. So I needed some other way to maybe get under their skin, or, I know already the lights and the cameras are unusual for some of, those players. So I just wanted to, take every advantage possible that I could and be an advantage player in that environment, which was very unique.
But the reality is, I'll say this, is that as I got to know him and I watched him play, there are certain guys that, and girls, some girls, but I mean mostly guys that were really at the top of the game. John Ressman, Ken Smith. I put you right in that category. You're as good as all those guys.
Thanks, man.
I mean, you would get to the point where you don't want to see somebody on your table.
Right.
And Dave was one of them. He was absolutely a top tournament player, no doubt.
Thanks. And then, I also think if I did anything original, it's that all the books and all the math that I learned on tournament strategy in particular, especially blackjack tournament strategy, it assumed that you're playing against a field of just amateur or average players. And, even if I'm playing against you, there's still certain plays that are just the right plays to make. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. But I know when you're playing like the World Series of Blackjack or Ultimate Blackjack Tour, if we're all going to play the exact same advanced strategy, then why aren't we just flipping coins for who, gets the right blackjack at the right time or something like that? So I had to innovate and embrace a slightly higher variance strategy so that I could have the best chance of having some small lead, and then with that lead over players who are really good, I could kind of just correlate and just run out the clock essentially. So I don't think that I've seen in any kind of blackjack book, nor mine, talking about the deviations you need to make from quote unquote good tournament play based on, what I would call like the aggression index that you need based on who's at your table. If I'm playing you and a bunch of other world-class pros versus some amateurs at the Silverton, I'm going to play a little bit differently. And I think you have to.
And you have to, we've talked about this before, in a tournament, you don't play it the way you would play a game. It's like I'm writing about contests and tournaments for All About Sports Betting, Blair Rodman's next book. And the first line is football contests is not football handicapping. It's something completely different. And you're looking for the variance that he's talking about. So you're playing in a finite amount of time as opposed to playing on into infinity where you want to play perfectly every hand. Here you deviate all over the place to try to set yourself away from the pack. And then he was always good at stuff like that. He was good at, you understood what we used to talk about all the time is the middle game. That there are things you do in the middle. Everybody thinks about the end. What do you do at the end? How do you play? Well, you've got to know how to play at the end. But Dave, he had a handle on it.
Okay.
So it was interesting, where we went from there. But let's just go back. Let's just start. You just give us a quick history of how you got into it. Then we'll go into the Hollywood Dave persona.
All right. Well, I grew up in Cleveland, Midwest boy. It's like a song lyric, I think.
Just a small town boy.
That's it, man. Got a theater degree, liked me some Shakespeare. A lot of my friends went to New York to make art. I came to LA to hopefully make some money. All right. And so, had the agents, the managers, was doing commercials and low budget horror movies and, just random stuff. I popped up a couple times on things. But really the thing that really worked out was I ended up falling into this weird niche of televised blackjack because one of the plays that I'd made as a kind of a starving actor was I'd go do game shows. And a lot of times you watch, whatever, Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, take your pick. And they always let's meet the players, right? And the players would be like, I'm a housewife from Tulsa, whatever. I'm a plumber from Cincinnati, Ohio. Really, 99% of people on game shows are actors. They live in Hollywood. But then the producers tell you, listen, tell us where you used to live and tell us what you used to do. Because they don't want to make it seem like, a bunch of somewhat photogenic people who have decent television personalities and all are near the Burbank film studios. Just they had to fly in from all over the country or the world every week, right? And I just used to go on and say, oh, I'm from Cleveland. I'm a professional blackjack player. Because I was going to Vegas on the weekends. I had read all the card, not as much the tournament books at that point, but all the card counting, high-low, everything. And I started making more money on the weekends in Vegas counting cards than I would have at some bartending gig or something. So I used to say my gambling job paid for my acting habit. Right. And then when they were casting for the World Series of Blackjack, one of the producers, I think at GSN, one of the producers said, oh, remember there was that guy that was on whatever game show and he said he was a blackjack player. Let's bring him in here.
Get him. Yeah,
exactly. So that's how it all
And
started.
I never really realized that until one day I was at home and here comes a Bud Light commercial and he's on it. And he's not Hollywood Dave.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
He's a regular guy having a Bud Light with a girl or something, whatever you were doing. Yeah. And I went, damn, that guy's an actor. That's what he is. That was it. Yeah. How many commercials did you do?
Probably like a dozen. That Bud Light one was probably the biggest. It was like a Super Bowl national commercial. I did, popped up on some random, crime shows or, whatever, playing the suspect of the week or, just things like that. But, there's so many jobs in Hollywood and they pay very well, but the longevity is tough. To string together a career is very tough. And for me, once I hit that weird little niche of I ended up doing 100 episodes of gambling television, playing some variation of Hollywood Dave, either as a player or commentator or host or, expert, whatever it was. And that ended up kind of dwarfing any of the other work I was doing at a certain point. So, yeah.
When we did the Ultimate Blackjack tour, he was one of the main guys on the tour. By then, we all knew who he was. And we put that together with a bunch of, we kind of tried to meld poker and blackjack, right? Yeah. And really, it was about playing blackjack on TV in a tournament format, but most of the players were poker players.
Yeah. They were it's half and half. You had half poker, half blackjack.
I think it was more.
Maybe more poker?
I think it was 2/3 to 1/3 poker.
Okay.
Because poker were the big names at that time.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they couldn't play a lick. Remember?
Well, I mean, and famously, I guess, how I got into poker was I was getting thrown out of more and more casinos for card counting. I was on a team for a while. I was traveling the world. And because of the TV shows, I mean, I'd go places and people, hey, it's Hollywood Day, you know, things like that. So it's like, okay, I probably
You're busted.
I know, I probably can't keep doing this. And, you know, I knew, like, I went to Australia once and I flew across the country, checked in at the Crown in Melbourne. And before I made it out of the lobby, they were backing me off, anything but blackjack. I'm like, okay, thank you. That information would have been more helpful, you know, 24 hours ago before I got on a plane and flew here, but no problem. But I ended up trading during the UBT. Annie Duke actually wanted to be a better blackjack player, and I wanted to be a better poker player. So we did like a mastermind where, you know, we became good friends actually. But for months, I was going to her house, and you know, we would trade. Okay, today it's going to be blackjack strategy and tournament strategy, and then the next day it was like, all right, here's poker and poker strategy. So I got this like direct, you know, mastermind download from one of the, you know, ostensibly one of the world's best players.
Yeah, she taught you well because I mean, you've become very, you know, very good at poker. I mean, tournaments especially, right? That's what you do. You travel around, you play a lot of poker tournaments, among other things we'll talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
But I used to think, you know, I mean, I would watch those guys play, and I thought Annie was the best. Of all of the poker players who played blackjack, I thought Annie was the best. And then I thought, actually, by the time it was all over, I was shocked because he came so far, but I thought Phil Hellmuth was probably the next best player.
Yeah,
What'd
he
you
was
think?
really solid. Yeah, I mean, both of them are really solid. Annie definitely, I mean, they have different ways of doing it. It was funny, we did another show called the Best Damn Gambling Show. I think it was an FSN, and it was like Annie and Phil, and they were, you know, trying to assemble an amateur team of poker players, and they were picking and everything, and they would mentor you. And so the style of mentoring from Annie is very logical, very left brain, very structural. And Helmuth, for as clearly talented as he is, maybe one of his strong suits, at least at the time, was not necessarily conveying that to other people. Because I think he's just like this gambling mutant that it just makes sense in his head. He's on a higher level. I mean, all props to the guy. I'm not like, I know a lot of people like to backhand compliment him while dissing him. I'm not doing that at all. But I think, you know, teaching is a very different skill than knowing. And he's, I think, gotten a lot better at the teaching side too over the years. But yeah.
What was always good about them is, you know who asked me for help? Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
Smart
magician,
guy.
Esfandiari. And
I don't know.
Yeah, he's you know, well known in poker, analyst and player. And he asked me, he goes, help me with this. So and he ended up being one of the best ones too.
Yeah.
Because you
Very
know
smart guy.
that's the cool thing about blackjack tournaments is you can. There are guys who take it farther to another level, but you can compete with them right up to it as long as you know basic concepts, shoot your bullets, you know, do these sort of things. Here's what we were playing in St. Kitts, right? And there were a bunch of these. We were leading up to the main tournament, and I was playing in satellite, is what they call it. You try to win your way in. And I made a play, and it was I made a bad play.
He made a mistake.
Right? And Dave comes running up behind me, and he goes, "Why did you do that?" And I said, "Don't worry about it."
I'll tell you later. Don't
Yeah,
worry about
I said, "Don't worry about it." He goes, "It doesn't make any sense."
it. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And he goes,
That's negative EV. It's clearly negative EV,
Yeah,
right? What am I missing?
He goes, there's just, I don't get it. I said, "Don't worry about it." There's
My assumption when I see a Hall of Fame legend like Anthony Curtis make a play that I don't understand is that I'm missing something. I'm clearly missing something,
Right.
right?
And I thought about it, and I thought, I'm going to string this along. This is just absolutely great.
That's
And
hilarious.
I got off the thing, and he's standing there like a puppy.
Tell me now.
Like,
All right.
Yeah, tell me. And I said, "Look, man," I said, "I can't tell you everything." And I said, "I promise, I'll tell you something before it's over." And he's just like,
Yeah.
he went up. And I tortured him, right?
Yeah.
I tortured him for a day and a half or something. And finally, I just came clean. I said, "Dude, I totally made a mistake."
That's hilarious.
You remember that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that was fun.
All right, so Dave, I know you used to play a lot of blackjack tournaments and you play a lot of poker tournaments, but what is the status of blackjack tournaments in today's world in the year 2025? Are you still playing blackjack tournaments? Are they available anywhere?
Not at all. Not anywhere. I would love to. But I think, and to be fair, I actually took a solid decade off from like 2011 to like 21. I was, living in San Francisco, building tech companies, like real stuff like that. Actually applying first gaming companies, then crypto. But coming back to tournaments now, the past few years, I've actually just been poker because I can't find you can find the weekly $50 buy-in type things, but to have like a serious prize pool, same thing with poker. I don't want to just go, oh, I'm going to win $1,000. If I'm going to like sit there with my brain and try to figure out how to like smash the world, I want to win 6 or 7 figures or have the possibility of doing it. And blackjack, I just don't see the possibility. Unfortunately, I think blackjack tournaments, it's an incentive misalignment. The incentive for a blackjack tournament is the function of the marketing departments of casinos to put up a prize that's basically a loss leader for them, to get in a bunch of high rollers, keep them on property long enough, give one or a handful of them enough money, and then set them loose to lose half of it or more in the casino. And poker is just different. They cater to, we want the best players, and we want you to travel to other casinos and other circuits. And, they're just slowly raising their, fees that they take every year. But the majority of the money is still going to the prize pools.
Like the rake from the table?
Exactly. Or the rake from the tournament entry. It's a $1,500 buy-in at the World Series, and, like 200 of that or 150 of that's going into go to the house. It's always interesting, like especially at the World Series of Poker, you can look at what's first place prize money, and then how much does the casino rake off that? And in a lot of tournaments, the casino's making more than the first place prize money. Yeah. So, they win every tournament they play, or get definitely top 3 finish in every tournament they play, for sure.
And most people don't look at equity. It's called equity. How much, how much are they returning? And the average person doesn't look at equity at all. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the guys who like to play it, they do understand equity. They'll look at it and they rationalize, and they go, yeah, but there's so much dead money.
Yeah, I'm twice as good as the average player, so I can fade 15%.
That's what I'll say. Really, you think you're 15% better? Really? Mm-hmm. And most people will argue that they are.
I think so, but I think at a certain point, you look at your record and you analyze it dispassionately, and you decide. And that's another reason not to play the lower buy-in tournaments, because honestly, that's where the rake is higher. And
18, 19%.
Right. And then the structure is so bad. That's also really important, too, is that the longer you can play, the more your edge can play out, even in a finite tournament series. But those lower buy-in tournaments, a lot of times, 2-3 hours in, it's like you just have to go all in with any ace in Hold'em, for instance, just because you can't afford to sit around.
Yeah, it gets really coin flippy at the end, right? You might as well just say, okay, it's like heads or tails, I'm in or I'm out.
Yeah.
At that point.
In terms of where blackjack tournaments are now, I think it's ripe for disruption. I think there needs to be a business model that makes it more like poker, where the money comes from the players and the house takes a fee of that, as opposed to thinking about it like a high roller kind of gambling thing, So I know there's 1 or 2 projects that are looking to do that. I'm
like
hoping.
Where?
Well, I'm hoping that one of those works out. I'm skeptical just because I think there's also a lot of education in the public that needs to happen for what this is. Somebody needs to do it, so maybe it's one of these projects. But poker, it's just everyone gets it. I think there was also the 10 years I took off, after UIGA, they shut down all the online poker. I lost a sponsorship that I had, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go just, do some other stuff. But in what's happening now, I think is interesting, is you no longer need to get a deal with like a network television station or cable television station and sell the advertising and do all this other stuff. So when the UIGEA happened, PokerStars isn't going to buy advertising time because they can't get Americans onboarded anymore. So there was no reason to do it. But with things like YouTube and what you guys are doing here, you just completely take out that middle. It's a camera, it's some reasonable setup, some lights and things like that. And same thing with poker. You can go watch the, $100,000 buy-in Triton final table in, Macedonia or whatever. And it's like, reasonable production quality, but it's real stakes. And so you just kind of circumvent that. And maybe blackjack needs to go that same route.
Well, I was thinking you were kind of giving me a layup there. Because that's what we're trying to do. When I say we, and this is funny because it comes around full circle, my partner in this, and trying to have what would be a World Series of blackjack like poker, but we wouldn't call it World Series because the name is taken, by World Series of Poker, but it would be the World Championship or whatever we end up calling it. my partner in this is Mike Aponte, the same guy that the first time.
Aponte!
Yeah, right down to the end with. But that's what we're trying to do, is make it so the public can buy in and use that poker model.
Yeah.
It would start off, we've talked about it would start off with an invitational. He'd be in for sure. I mean,
only
like
if
we
I
made
don't
our
have to
list.
play, as I told you in the email when you said, "Hey, would you be interested?" Only if I don't have to act like an asshole on TV anymore. I don't want to do it anymore.
What you actually said was, "Do I have to be that Hollywood Dave asshole?" That's what you said.
Right.
Do I have to be that Hollywood Dave asshole? I go, no, you can be whatever you want.
Okay. Fair.
And that gets into killing Hollywood Dave, right? Killing off
Well,
Hollywood.
tell us. You told me that your next book. We're going to talk about Hollywood Blackjack in a minute, but you said if you did another book, it would be
Killing Hollywood Dave.
Jeez. Something deep there, Dave. There's something deep.
Well, I mean, it is. I had a psychological breakdown, guys. No, I didn't. But there was something about what started off as a fun advantage play in 2004, and then then the next series, and then it turned into a thing where I was getting cast in a lot of these things, and that's great. But it was playing this like version of myself that at a certain point you just go, I just don't. Also, it's not serving it anymore. It was useful because nobody saw it coming, nobody knew it was happening, or they would mistake it. But then eventually you see that Hollywood Dave guy said, it's like, okay, he knows what he's doing. He's gonna try to talk and distract me. But it lost its, I think, potency, and it just became this like weird, I don't know, marketing thing. I just didn't enjoy it personally anymore. I think also, I mean, you want to get deeper into psychology. I left Hollywood after 10 years. I moved to San Francisco. And something about like there's a validation that you're craving when you're like, put me on camera, put me on TV. And at a certain point, I was like, I don't even really want that.
It's interesting. Man.
It's like
you crave that in the beginning. You live for that.
Yeah.
And now you don't
get enough of it, and you're like, it didn't mean what I thought it was going to mean. And I'm fine just kind of doing my own thing.
There's a weird mania out there among people who haven't been on TV.
Yes.
That want to be on TV.
Yeah.
They could do anything to be on TV.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've been on TV a bunch of times, you don't care anymore.
Yeah.
You just go, and you see it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like when I was on Bar Rescue, I couldn't believe how contrived that was.
Yeah.
It's just like, geez, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is, they call it reality. It's a modified reality. I mean, they say, look, we're going to go down this path and we're going to see which way it goes. I get tired of it. I just get tired of it. It just doesn't seem real.
Yeah. And I prefer to, I think, live more authentically. And part of that is acting is inherently, trying on other personalities. And when that bleeds over into your real life and there's an expectation, it's like no longer fun, I guess.
Dave, let's talk about your book, Hollywood Blackjack.
Hollywood Blackjack, an uncensored guide to what?
Doing
it like a pro. An
doing it
uncensored
like a
guide to
pro.
doing it like a pro. Here he is, the bad boy of blackjack with the picture of him. Look at Dave in the back with his unbelievable. I mean, go ahead.
It's a little bit like Billy Joe from Green Day, It's a
All
little
right,
bit,
yeah, I can see that. I mean, half the book is legitimate, like how to count cards, how to get away with it.
Oh.
Like everything, like you could read this and know enough to come and start playing blackjack. And then the other half of it is like stories of me getting like tossed out of casinos and having fun. I felt like when I was writing it, I would always imagine like two people on my shoulder. I had John Chang, MIT fame, right, on one shoulder, saying, you better make sure, no matter how much fun you have with this, that it's 100% accurate. The math and the numbers add up. Don't lead anyone astray. Don't take any shortcuts. And so I wanted to satisfy that. But then I had like the Ken Houston on the other shoulder, saying, come on, man.
Do some coke.
Yeah, come on. You're in a bar writing this. Just have a couple shots and then finish that chapter, kind of
All
a thing.
right.
So I wanted to kind of write it from a first person kind of fun point of view, despite having the solid math behind it.
This is a really good blackjack book that does not get its due.
Mm-hmm.
It really does not. And I mean, this is now a Huntington Press book because we acquired it. And we only acquire books that have already been written when we think they're really good. And even after we acquired it, we've never given it the promotion that it deserves. This is a really good book. And I mean, it's not
I think he's just saying that because I'm sitting. Right
I'm actually
next to him.
not. And I mean, you know what? I wouldn't have even, we'd have talked about it, but there's a lot in this book. It's the kind of book that I would recommend anybody who wants to be serious about it, because I didn't think there was that much about the real how-to, but you say there was
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of actually counting and everything else, because I didn't read those parts. I skimmed over them.
I mean, it's illustrious 18. It's camouflage plays. It's
Okay.
it's basic stuff, but it's like the solid full basic course.
I just thought there was so much more about getting away with it, doing it, what you had to do with camouflage, what you had to do with how you did it, and it's a fun read, man. It's fun. There's some F-bombs.
There's a few of those.
Yeah, a little bit of
Listen,
little bit.
I'm gonna read a section of this. I read this to you
You
earlier.
read it better than I did.
Listen, so my publisher at the time wanted me to put in a chapter about tournaments, and my favorite review on Amazon, because it was being sold on Amazon, is like, I didn't want to put anything about the tournaments because I was still playing a lot of them at the time, and I didn't want to give away some of those secrets just yet. So I was like, all right, I did this chapter, so I'll read the first like 2 sentences. Intro to tournaments. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not actually going to teach you a damn thing about how to win at blackjack tournaments in this book. Yeah, you read that right. Suck on it, you bastards, but I'm not prepared to simply hand over that precious information just yet. I'm still using it in the casinos, and you don't deserve the knowledge on my be-all, end-all advanced tournament strategy for demolishing every tourney in your sights. My publisher tried to get me to put in some sort of remedial tournament strategy chapter here, but I told him to go fuck himself. So I did put some in there, but one of my favorite reviews on Amazon is somebody
That wasn't me. I wasn't the publisher.
No, that was the one that you bought it out from.
Yeah.
But somebody bought this book on Amazon, and then they left a legit tilted 1-star review saying, I bought this because I saw him on the blackjack shows, and I saw there was a chapter intro to tournament, and I bought it, and he told me he wasn't going to say anything about it and that I should go suck on it.
That's hilarious.
1 star. And I'd laugh for days about it.
Oh my God, that's
the best review ever.
Totally classic, man. And then you do. I mean, that you do go on to give information. I mean,
But nowhere near as none of the advanced stuff.
weren't you thinking about doing a book on it?
Yeah, so my second book was going to be like Hollywood Blackjack Advanced Tournament Strategy. And then I realized only less than 100 people in the world would really want that. And at the time, like I said, this is like what Grosjean faces, right? He slowly dribbles out this master stuff years after he's made tons of money off of it. Because, I mean, even in this book, I talked about other advantage plays, playing the turn, this, that, and the other. And I had some people, I mean, this is 2006, 2007, say, hey, could you not put that in there? Because we're still making money off that. I said, yeah, sure, no problem, But, over time, these things come out more and you can publish more.
Where would you point somebody if they wanted to learn tournament play? All right, now I'm talking about everything now. You're talking about the videos that are out there. I did one with Colin Jones.
Yep.
Other people have done them. They're not very good. Most of them that I've seen, I've not seen any that I thought were terrific, but I haven't seen them all. Where would you send somebody? What should they read or what should they watch? Do you have a list or no?
Stanford WONG Casino Tournament Strategy.
That's
It's
the Bible. Yeah.
And the only discrepancy I have from that is that it assumes you're playing against average players. And when you're playing against top-notch players, you have to make certain adjustments. And I haven't seen that strategy written anywhere. And I haven't written about it, but, I've talked about it a little bit. But honestly, to this day, it's like there's not enough blackjack tournaments where it matters. Maybe if you get this series up and running and people are very interested in it again, I would write about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, when we did Ken Einiger's book, Play to Win, that was during the UBT was on TV, and we thought it was going to get big. And so we did a fairly big print run of it.
Yeah.
And the first part of that book is just basically the author writing about himself, because
he's on TV, so people want the personality.
He wanted to
a little
tell
bit.
his story.
Sure.
But the second half of that book,
Yeah, it's like a basic WONG,
we worked pretty hard on that.
No, I know. It's solid advice.
One thing is called the anatomy of a tournament champion.
What is it,
Championship.
chapter 11, chapter 13? Those are the key knowledge there.
Yes,
Yeah.
whatever, something like that.
Pair square. Yeah,
But
so very
I
important.
know that there's some stuff out there from Ken Smith. That
Yeah, his forum for a while, blackjacktournaments.com, was like a treasure trove of information. I don't think he's maintained that in years. Again, it's like this whole world went away, and the knowledge is still timeless, but there's not a practical application, unfortunately, for a lot of it right now.
Well, Wong's casino tournament strategy, when Wong called me and asked me to be on his team long time ago, and I said, I don't know anything about tournaments. And he says, none of us do. But he says, I've done a bunch of work. And he goes, we're going to learn together.
Yeah.
And he gave us a, 3-ring binder, that book. I mean, it became that book, the
Right.
3-ring binder that we used
Yep.
that nobody else had.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about it, once we got out into the field, we found that there were other teams that were playing and cleaning up. They were doing a lot of that on their own. We weren't the only ones who knew that,
Yeah.
although he had taken some things a little bit farther.
Yeah.
So
That was a great framework for thinking about tournament strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've used that as well in poker, I think, to some extent. But, obviously swapping lessons with Annie Duke, and learning a lot about poker. She learned a lot about blackjack. That helped create a framework, and taking a decade off and coming back. I feel like, this is weird, I feel like my poker tournament game is the best it's ever been. From having taken a decade off, coming back to it with maybe fresh eyes and completely divorced from any of the, the internal pressures of Hollywood Dave and people's expectations. He's going to do this, he's going to do that. This beard now is great. I came back after a decade playing the World Series events. I'd be at a table with people I definitely knew, that they definitely knew me. We just hadn't talked in a decade because, I was just doing my own thing. And they didn't recognize me because not only, with the hat, the beard, but then also the voice. I'm just not talking very much. I'm talking in a normal.
it couldn't be him.
I'm not. You're right. So they don't even.
The
think
persona's
about it.
gone. There's no
Right,
more
but then
persona.
it's like, I remember how you play, but now you don't remember how I play. And there was some kind of freedom in that
That's
to
funny.
kind of reinvent and kind of go farther, and not feel constrained by what I used to think I knew.
Well,
Interesting,
I was going to say, let's switch gears into poker. Would you give any advice for poker strategy?
Well, I mean, I think tournaments are fundamentally different than cash games. And as much as I played plenty of cash games, I'm definitely a tournament player. For me, when I go play a tournament, poker tournament or blackjack tournament, it's like a chess match. Especially, I guess in poker is more applicable because there's a finite goal. You want to be the last person standing. You want to have all the chips. There are a million decisions along the way that you have to make with this end goal.
Yep.
Whereas at a cash game, it's like every single decision point is plus or minus EV at that exact moment for that exact hand. And I don't know what it is, but playing for money directly feels differently than playing a game. The result of winning the game is money. So there is a fundamental difference there, and I just enjoy, I think,
It's interesting.
tournaments a lot.
Is it because your total loss is already determined? It's finite.
I mean, maybe. I think that's another strength that I
Like
have
that
now.
being
is
that being your buy-in or
yeah,
entry fee.
15
Yeah.
years ago, I'm playing these tournaments, and maybe it meant a little bit more to my bottom line. It's rent money. It's not that bad, but you know what I mean. And now, playing these higher stakes tournaments. I mean, I'm not playing the Triton nosebleeds, but it just doesn't. Yeah, it's a loss right away, and then it's like, great, what can we do? How can we turn this into something great? And my results have been like 3 times higher than they used to be. So I don't
That's
know.
right.
Mindset, I think, is really key. I think I used to, even though I would act out the tilt kind of aspect, I don't really have that anymore. So I look up to a player like Phil Ivey, who doesn't, right? The guy's just got ice in his veins. And at any given moment, he could have the nuts, he could have 7 high. And he's just really giving it that thought, what's the best strategy play at this moment? It's like you remove yourself from the situation, from the attachment to the outcome, and you just try to think, what's the creative line? What's the best line? And come at it from a pure strategy point of view, so that you're not really having the same reaction. Your pulse isn't going up. Your neck veins aren't, if you're bluffing, you don't feel the same anxiety maybe as, used to.
Interesting, man.
Hey guys, it's Andrew from the Las Vegas Advisor reminding you to click on the link in the description box below to get your 2025 Member Rewards coupon book. Food coupons, gambling coupons, all kinds of cool stuff to do in that Member Rewards coupon book. You can also use the code word Andrew for a minus $5 discount off of your Member Rewards book. Link in the description box below.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit.
Right.
We'll hopefully see you again, in the blackjack arena if we get that done. But from there, you went on to do other things after this book and everything else. And I mentioned gaming platforms and companies, and then crypto. So let's get into that just a little bit. I mean, people are interested as hell in crypto. What's it all about? And I know from talking to you about it that you know as much about it as anybody I know. But tell us about the game platforms you did.
So
where you
yeah,
went.
I mean, after I started, showing up at places and being recognized and knowing my longevity was over, and switched to poker, and then UIGEA just made it very difficult to continue for a period of time. I just said, F it. I'm just going to use this gaming knowledge. I moved to San Francisco and I started building gaming platforms there. So one of probably the most well-known things that our company built was called Fresh Deck Poker, and it was one of the earliest Facebook mobile, like 2011, 12, 13 platforms. And, everyone played like Zynga poker, these things, for free to play poker.
What happened to Zynga?
I think they're still around.
They were huge.
They still are huge. But I think that business model, early days Facebook, there was a zeitgeist that was captured. It was Farmville. It was, Zynga poker. We definitely did okay. We weren't as big as them, but, we had real traction, a lot of players. And our thing was, look, we want to make the gameplay very authentic, but we want to have a lot of fun. So we made things a lot more colorful. You could design and customize your avatar, the guy you're playing at the table, that kind of early stuff. But we wanted still the controls, the pre-actions to be like legitimate real money poker. Maybe one day they'd flip a switch and they'd let us actually provide real money. So I'm really surprised, actually. What's your take on this? Bill Frist, you remember he snuck in that, in that must-pass Port Security Act bill in like 2006 to stop dirty bombs from coming in the port of Long Beach.
Yeah.
So suddenly no American could send their money from their bank to a gambling site. And here we are almost 20 years after that. Yeah. And we have a patchwork of, Nevada, Pennsylvania, whatever, but we still have and it doesn't even seem like Sheldon Adelson was worried about the competition for the land-based casinos. He's gone. I don't even think Miriam really cares that much, but it's just the default position that we can't let Americans gamble with their own money online.
Yeah. Well, I think Adelson didn't want in because he was too far behind.
Yeah, sure.
So he wanted to be on top of everything that he did, and that was that.
But
what do I think? I think that it's a natural progression. It's funny. The next thing I was going to talk to you about is okay, what about sweepstakes? What about skill based? And skill based didn't go anywhere. So kind of let's throw that away.
Actually, I'll say one thing about skill based is after we got acquired, the company that did Fresh Deck Poker, we got acquired by GSN, their digital arm, so not the television studios. They have GSN Games, then they got acquired. And I went over there and I built a platform called World Winner Mobile. And that was basically you could play Angry Birds for $1 against somebody else who was playing Angry Birds for $1. And as long as you both got the exact same birds in the exact same order, then it was considered skill gaming. There was no luck. You and I would get the same setup. You could do this with Tetris. We had
Solitaire.
Exactly. We had all these AAA IP kind of games, and we just laid that skill gaming framework that was legally compliant. And you saw this, also in the early days of crypto, where it was okay, the ICO boom, the SEC didn't like that. So you started getting all these creative models for how to do a thing that people want to do with their own money, but we have to fit it into some weird framework. I know California to this day, they have California blackjack. You go to a poker room, Commerce Casino, you can play blackjack. You can't play against the house because that's gambling. But I can play against a player who's banking, and so now the house is taking their fee, and I have the same negative EV against the player who's acting as a... So it's actually 3 times worse for me than just firing off against the casino, but somehow that's compliant. So all these weird shell games you have to play in gaming and crypto.
Yeah, and it took decades from when they did this, UGA, right, to all of a sudden change things. Fantasy sports comes along.
Yeah.
They move it back, they move it towards sports betting. Now they're all sports betting companies.
Yeah, that evolved from fantasy and sweepstakes to
exactly.
sports books.
And now we're looking at exchange betting, which they're now calling peer-to-peer, which they're now calling prediction markets.
Yeah.
Right? And all of these things were the things that they were trying to stop, and people started figuring out ways to get around them and get through them, and it's all going to come back to be again.
Yeah.
It really is.
We really need our own app, our own LVA app.
Okay, so now crypto.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's interested to some degree. I mean, what can you tell us about it?
I remember at the Blackjack Ball years ago, and it was 2017. I went up to Johnny Chang, and I was like, "Hey, best advantage play ever. Just buy Bitcoin." Even this book, people say sign it. I say, forget blackjack, buy Bitcoin.
Is that what you signed?
Oh, yeah. So I'm not going to go into a whole red pill thing with that, but you know, it's an early adopter technology, but more than just like buying a token that you like and you think the number is going to go up, pick your favorite token. The technological aspect of it, I really put, you know, really decentralized finance for me is what I focused on the last 5 years. I went to Kraken. I built a bunch of mobile trading apps for crypto there. And the past 5 years, I've just been traveling, living nomadically, and I focus on decentralized finance, which is just this entire world of permissionless, censorship-resistant tools to allow people to do what they want with their own, you know, you call it money, but it's really just value, speech, things like this that can't be shut down or censored. I really put it up there with like the wheel and fire, because for the first time in human history, we don't need an intermediary. We don't need a government. We don't need a bank. Up until any point in history, if you wanted to make $1 million deal for something, you can't trust someone else. And even if you do trust them, maybe this is the one time they angle shoot you. So you need somebody in the middle siphoning off some percent in exchange for that. And now with smart contracts, that's completely solved. So for years in crypto, we saw banks and governments scramble to try to make it illegal because they saw that, like, okay, we're replaceable now. And now in the past few years, they're like, okay, well, let's have Wall Street pile in and we'll profit alongside that technology. So it's being co-opted in a different way. But for me, it's just really interesting to see. And we've had different problems with like censorship in the past, not only financial, but, you know, just information, people getting their Facebook feed shut down because they said the wrong thing about the wrong thing. And decentralized finance and a lot of this crypto stuff provide tools that you can use to never be censored again, to never be shut down, to never be stopped. So there's a real power in that that's captivated me.
This is where we get back to the full-time digital nomad and sovereign individual. I mean, that's what it's about, is you're passionate about crypto and that not just Bitcoin, I reckon.
No,
I mean,
no, and that's a gateway drug. But you know, for me, it's about sovereign living, not relying on any state government to solve my problems. I do a lot more traveling now. I've probably spent half the year in Europe, maybe a quarter of a year in Mexico. I mean, here in the U.S., like Austin or Vegas, like quarter of the year. It's nice if there's like a nice poker series in Prague or something. Okay, I'll go hang out there for 2 or 3 months. I'll play that. But then just also living a little bit off grid and kind of diversifying. Some people will get multiple passports and things like that. Because listen, we all lived through the dark times a few years ago, and it's likely that some other weird dark time could happen. I'm not a doomer, I'm not a prepper, but I like to think that it's responsible and it's positive EV to set yourself up for when and if something weird happens. You have fallback plans that you're not like, oh shit,
With the meteoric rise of Bitcoin, is it too late?
Never.
No. So you think it's always strong, get in, buy and hold?
Until governments decide they're going to stop printing money by drunken sailors, it's always going to be a good bet.
Interesting, man. Interesting. Because I mean, I actually looked at it. I missed the ship. And I looked at it and I said... You
did miss the ship. You missed being an early adopter, but now you could be a mid-adopter.
Interesting.
Well, people used to laugh that it would be worth $100,000 when it was $1,000 or $10,000. Yeah. Now people are laughing, oh, it's never going to be worth $1 million. Spoiler, it's going to be worth $1 million. But aside from that, I think a lot of people think about crypto as like, how do I take some of my shitty fiat slave money and turn it into this gorgeous, pristine, beautiful asset? And then the number will go up to some other bigger number. And then I'll sell my beautiful, gorgeous, pristine capital asset and turn it back into this shitty, inflationary nonsense currency that we all know is going to zero eventually. So I think the trick is, how do you just siphon a percent of your net worth or your revenue, whatever it is, and send it into this beautiful place? And it's not about going back the other way. It's about building assets and value and growth.
You see it as speculation, or you see it as more of a hedge, sort of similar to what gold has
been
hedge.
Forever? It's the same thesis as gold. And I know within that world, there's a ton of scams. There's the weird meme coins. There's the NFT stuff. And some of that goes to a zillion, great, but 99% of it goes to zero. So, just like the stock market, you can buy a penny stock, and 99 times out of 100, you're going to lose whatever you bet. But again, thinking about it less like how do I 100x or 1000x, and more about how do I just build wealth off grid and away from the control of any government and what they may or may not decide to do in the future.
Now, are there other coins aside from Bitcoin that you would recommend now?
I'm not in the business of recommending. I like Bitcoin. I think there are other big ones like Ethereum that are probably going to keep doing well. I'm more a fan of what you can do with the technology.
Okay.
So, people, if you want to gamble and you want to go 100x on some futures market, you don't need to use an exchange for that. You can do it on a decentralized protocol. If you want to write your screed about how Fauci is the devil and you don't want Facebook to censor you, you can do it on a decentralized social media platform and not have to worry about censorship. So anything that you want to do kind of in the quote unquote real world, there is a tool that you can do it in crypto, and it's gaining massive amounts of adoption. So sometimes people like to buy the tokens that are associated with those things, and they speculate that will, go up over time too.
It's a new religion.
Could be. Some people take it that way.
All right.
I think it's just practical.
All right. So in closing, Dave, we always ask a few questions to our guests. I'm going to start with the first one. What is your favorite restaurant or restaurants in Las Vegas?
All right. This is the secret that Anthony actually showed me a couple years ago. Cleaver on Paradise, steakhouse, nice atmosphere, kind of speakeasy vibe. You can bring a nice date, have a business dinner, or just hang out with your buddies. The steaks, everything there, top quality, but half the price you're going to find on the strip, certainly. So, I'm all about a good value. And sure, sometimes you want to get that $20 ribeye down at Scoundrels, right? Tastes good. It's definitely worth that $20. Check it out. But if you want the higher end stuff, but you don't want to get fleeced like everywhere else in Vegas, Cleaver's my secret recommendation.
Cleaver's a good one. I mean, if you go like that skirt steak there, I think it's $28.
They have like a double cut pork chop for like $40. That's just like mouth-watering, amazing, best pork chop you've ever had, giant, and it'd be like $80.
Cool locals place. Yeah, cool locals place on Paradise.
Yeah, right on Paradise there by...
And the funny thing about it is they go, okay, these things that are marked this way are happy hour, which is half price. And the happy hour is
Always.
every
always
minute
happy
they're
hour.
open. So every time I go, I say to the waitress, I go,
Is it happy
this
hour?
is the price. No, I go, it's not happy hour. I go, this is the price.
Right.
And they're like, yeah. So it'll say that skirt steak will say $56, but it's happy hour, so it's 28.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's nice. Okay, so that's a good one. That's a good recommendation. And he threw in Scoundrels. Scoundrels, man, the little bar, the $20 Tuesdays only, man. $20 ribeye. It's terrific.
It's a
I
great
agree.
deal.
It's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it.
It's on Lamb, way out north on Lamb.
Oh, I'll throw one more in. There's still, it's hard to find like a $10 or a $20 prime rib like it used to be, much more. Or you go and it's like, oh, this is like, you're going to get sick eating this, right? But the El Cortez, they have whatever their main restaurant is down there.
Yeah, Seagull.
Yeah,
Seagull's
1941
1941 or something.
or whatever. You can still get a $20 like nice princess cut prime rib with all the fixing, and it's really good quality.
Cool.
I didn't know that. I'm going to have to try that at the El
Worth-
Cortez.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
and not bad blackjack games for those of you who like to play blackjack.
Well, the El Cortez is also famous for letting you film inside. A lot of influencers go there, and it's a good spot.
Not a paid sponsorship. I don't know. Maybe you'll turn it into one now. But
Good work. All right, last question.
All right.
We got to do it. We're a publishing company.
Yeah.
Favorite gambling book? Can't take you off the hook. You can't pick your own.
I wouldn't.
Doesn't
pick my own
doesn't
anyway.
have to be an HP book at all. Your favorite gambling book, or the book that influenced you, or the one that always comes to mind, or that everyone should read, however you want to put it.
I mean, I'm just such a weird purist with this stuff. I mean, Casino Tournament Strategy by Stanford WONG was my Bible for years. I feel like I made some iterations on it, but that's still the core. Obviously, Professional Blackjack. I mean, who doesn't have that?
More one.
But I think like a dark horse pick, and he was up for the Blackjack Hall of Fame at the Blackjack Ball this weekend. Bryce Carlson's Blackjack for Blood taught me so much about the camouflage side of things, and how to look at like, okay, so maybe if you don't split tens when you're supposed to split tens, it's going to cost you a certain number of percent of EV, but your longevity in the game is long, things like that, which were really important for my card counting career.
Huntington Press book.
There you
Interesting.
go.
That's
Look
cool.
at that.
All right, Dave. Thanks, man. Thanks for
stuff.
being on.
You got it.
Some fascinating stuff, I'll tell you.
All right. Thanks, Dave. We'll see you next time.
To